Presented by Visa, the women's football report for today. We're going to show you the clip that has taken the women's national team sphere by storm, and that was on Footy Prime, the podcast. Evelyn Vienne and Gabby Carle were speaking quite openly about their personal experiences playing under Bev Priestman over the years and how things changed under Andy Spence at the Olympics amidst the scandal. Let's play the clip in case you haven't heard it yet, and then we'll get some reactions from Oliver Platt and Jordan Wilson.
I had to learn to see my own value because I didn't necessarily feel valued no matter what I did. And I think I got good at that, but then once I was on that field and she was gone, I just realized just how much of an impact she had on me. It felt like I was always second guessing my decisions. I was always, just because no matter if I messed one thing up, I knew this was going to be brought up and I knew it was going to be held against me.
So we said this last night on match night when we played it during the program. The thing that surprises the most about hearing from a player about a coach like that, usually it's either sent through the media or it's not necessarily. Players decide they don't want to take the opportunity to speak up. The interesting thing here is Bev Priestman is suspended. She's banned from footballing activities amongst the assistant coaches also involved. But until the investigations are complete, Bev Priestman is still the head coach of the Canadian women's national team, although many don't expect her to ever coach a game again for Canada. That's a layer here. There's also the layer and arguments about players who, when they don't see eye to eye with coaches, and that's not unique to this team, feeling more emboldened or able to speak out on their experiences. Now, what Gabby and Evelyn Vienne did still takes a lot of courage to do that. And clearly they felt that they were prepared to make those bold statements to Footy Prime, the podcast, Ollie. But as we digest not the levity, but the gravitas of those words from Gabby Carle, what is your big takeaway here?
To be honest with you, I don't know. Like my first initial kind of immediate takeaway is that I feel a lot of sympathy for Gabby Carle. You never want to hear that a player's been feeling like that or been put in that kind of situation, and I did feel that the way they handled the potential return of Sydney Collins from injury, I didn't think was handled very well from a man management point of view. Like it felt like they kind of put her in a situation where they were saying like, and it's nothing Sydney Collins has done wrong, obviously, but she's been injured for several months. She hasn't played a competitive game. And it was almost like, we're going to give this player every inch of opportunity we possibly can to make this Olympic roster. And the implication was fairly obvious that if she makes it, you're out. But at the same time, we need you to be ready. And, if Collins doesn't make it or unfortunately is re-injured, as was the case, you're not just on the roster, you're in the starting lineup for the first game. And I don't think that put Carle in a great position. I don't know if that was specifically what she was referring to, or if it was more kind of just broadly over the past few years, the way she felt she'd been managed or coached or whatever word you want to use. So I definitely did feel sympathy for her there. At the same time, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with sometimes when coaches leave, and I think Bev Priestman is going to leave here as this process plays out with the independent investigation. It can be very easy for people to just kind of bury them in a way that, while I'm upset about what happened with the drones, and I think Bev Priestman made a big mistake there, and I'm sure that, like every manager, she is not perfect and has made mistakes over the past few years. I'm not comfortable with just like twisting the knife and completely burying this coach and, not giving a certain amount of respect and credit to someone who I do think genuinely, in my experiences at least, and I wasn't on the insides, but just covering this team, I do think genuinely gave everything she had to this job, even if it wasn't always perfect. So it's a little bit of a balance for me, but I certainly do feel, a lot of sympathy whenever you hear any player speak like that. It's not nice to hear, and it's not what you want your national team to be about.
Jordan, anything to add? We heard a little bit from you last night.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when I answered last night as well, I still couldn't really gather my thoughts because it's one of those situations. I've had managers leave, and sometimes you're in good graces with a manager, and sometimes you're on the outskirts. And you know what? I've had both in my time. I've had managers that in the professional game that they played me and maybe liked me, but didn't really take to all parts of my game, and there was a little bit of friction. I'd love to be on the inside and really know, but the things that stuck out to me, what Gabby Carle said, was see my own value. I will say, if you're in a position, and Ollie kind of alluded to it, where you're playing games where you don't feel as if your manager values what you bring, and you start second guessing who you are. I think that's a conversation that maybe should have been brought up before, right? I know you're airing your grievances now, but I just think for someone like Gabby Carle, and maybe it's on the manager for sure to go and mend those relationships, but in the ideal world, I would just love for that to have been a situation that was dealt with in-house, you know, and go into a manager. And maybe she did. Maybe we didn't get into that. But I know a situation where you can maybe go and change it, and hopefully that would have been better. But it's out there. That's how she feels about it. And I agree with all this, that a lot of the good that Bev Priestman has done definitely will be overshadowed by the saga of the last bit that's happened. And that's football, and that is life. Like if you do that one huge thing incorrect, that's what you'll be remembered for.
And I think to add my 2 cents to the conversation as well, just the modern athlete has more platforms and more opportunities to make their thoughts heard, their voices heard. And I don't think it would be ever fair to say that the players should keep things to themselves if they feel like it's important to share. And if you watch the full interview with Footy Prime, the podcast, I think Amy Walsh does a good job of making them comfortable to talk about it. And they weren't being forced to talk about it. Gabby Carle made the decision that that's something she wanted to share. And that's credit to Amy, that's credit to the podcast, but also credit to Gabby for taking that stance. Because you remember how many times she was like, alternate Gabby, and she was supposed to be alternate again, and then she ended up playing a big role on this team and proving herself under Andy Spence. So an unfortunate situation that's getting a bit more context and color from it. And we appreciate the opportunity to hear those conversations. Again, it's all fully on Footy Prime, the podcast, if you did not hear it or want to hear more than just a few clips that have circulated on social media. We will stay with our Canadian internationals, Jordan Wilson, and talk about the players in Europe that caught your eye. I'm going to give you each a minute. It could be a player, it could be a couple of players, but you have 60 seconds to shine a light on Canadians in Europe from the weekend.
I'm going to stay consistent and talk about a player that I know everyone's talking about the big names and then the sexy names, and of course they should be there. But Liam Miller is one of those for me that is just those quiet names that we need to be doing well in club football. So when he comes to Canada, when he comes to the States and playing the States and Mexico in a few weeks' time, he's ready and ripe. Getting an assist in his first match for Hull. We love to see it. I'm going to keep a big eye, a keen eye on Hull City and Liam Miller this year because we need him. And I love club football, but all of it comes back to that sweet red and white, which is Canada. I just want players to be in form when they go into camp and they play for this beautiful country.
Jordan's been a Liam Miller. He's been a Liam Miller.
He's been the conductor of that train, yeah.
Credit
for a while.
He's getting rewarded.
Oliver Platt, who stood out to you this weekend?
I thought it was big that Derek Cornelius started and won big for Marseille. They're top of the table after one game, and Theo Bair started and also got a win for Auxerre. So just seeing those two players who, I think with Kone, obviously unfortunate to see him get injured, and we hope he's back in time for September and as soon as possible for Marseille. But with that kind of player, young prospects, sky's the limit. You feel confident that it's, he's going to get his opportunities when he's ready for them. With Cornelius and Bair, it's been a real climb to get to this point, right? And so you want to see this move work out for them. You want to see them get those first team opportunities and make the most of them. And this weekend was a really good start. So I thought that was really positive.
I also just love to see the bounce back from Cornelius after conceding a penalty inside of 5 minutes and then not letting it tank his debut game. And he grew from it, got more confident and brave. Alex Gangeruzik actually on Twitter had pretty much a minute-by-minute evaluation of that and
Nice.
many other Canadians abroad, but I thought he did a great job and was worthy of a shout-out. We'll see who catches the eye next weekend. There are more and more Canadians in Europe by the day, by the week, by the month, it feels. Before the end of the show, as always, we have to get to today's TonyBet Top Picks. Presented by TonyBet Top Picks. And when the producer of the show was like, hey guys, we've got some World Cup futures for you available on tonybet.ca, I was like, we're going to do this in August? The 2026 World Cup that Canada will be co-hosting, Jordan Wilson. So we prepared a list of 7 nations and their odds just a little bit before taping. Of course, they're always fluctuating, but the futures are out. You're going to tell me good value or bad value, and we have to go through quickly. Jordan, let's start with you. Brazil at plus 592 to win it all.
Can I say decent value? Good value.
Good value, says Jordan Wilson. Oliver Platt, Argentina, the defending champs, of course. Who knows what their roster will look like? Plus 872.
It's a tough one because they continue to dominate, but you just don't know where Messi's going to be at that point 2 years from now. I'm going to say avoid that one for the time being.
Ollie, back to you. Uruguay at plus 2460.
Uruguay. I like Uruguay.
That's
I like
sneaky good value for me.
I'm not so sure. I don't think they're quite a World Cup winning caliber team, so not for me.
Let's finish with the 3 co-hosts. Jordan Wilson, the first, the favorites based on CONCACAF, the Americans at plus 3361.
I mean, I can get behind them making, was it a round of 32 now? Or
round of 64, maybe?
The round of 98 or however many teams there are. They could make a run, but to go and win, I'm sorry.
Mexico plus 50-40, Jordan.
Sorry to the Mexico. I put them 4th. Power rankings.
Yeah, you did. Check out those power rankings for match night.
Yeah, I don't really rate Mexico. I mean, a lot could change in a year and a half, but yeah, for me, can't get behind the Mexicans.
I think we can all agree that Canada at plus 9,900 is good value. You just sprinkle $10.
Cash out in the semis.
That's right. Sprinkle a 10 sheet on it, and you can make some cash. Thanks to TonyBet, the World Cup futures. Thanks to Jordan Wilson and Oliver Platt for today's episode of One Soccer Today. We are back on Thursday for more right here on One Soccer.